CSIS 2470 is filmed before a live studio audience.
Hey everybody, welcome to class today. Over the next few lectures, we're going to be talking about the Canvas object. And by Canvas, I mean not the software you're using to view this course in, but the tag. There's an HTML tag called Canvas, much like the body tag or the div tag or a paragraph tag or an image tag or whatever. There's a tag called Canvas. And so the next few lectures are going to be all about the tag and the JavaScript object that allows us to manipulate things on the canvas. The videos you're about to watch were actually filmed for my PHP class. In PHP, we do cover some JavaScript, and we actually used to cover the canvas tag. We don't anymore, but the videos are still great resources for learning the canvas tag. So this first lecture here is the introduction to the canvas tag. And then you're about to hear past Jeff come on and go over the video that was filmed for the PHP class. And then at the end, of course, it will be present Jeff wrapping things up. That's me, in case you're wondering. So that's it. Here we go. Hand off to past Jeff. So the big picture of what Canvas is, just like it sounds when you're an artist, like a painter, like Mr. Bob Ross, our friend, happy little tree guy.
Maybe there's a happy little tree that lives right here. And he's a little bigger, a little stronger. We can see more of his trunk.
What does he paint on? He paints on a canvas, right? He has a, what is it? Standard 12 by 14 canvas.
I've got my old standard 18 by 24 inch canvas up here.
So we're going to make in our web page a canvas, and then we're going to use our tools like a paintbrush kind of a thing, that's more of a metaphor, to paint on this canvas, right? And you can do a lot of cool stuff on it. So canvas is just an HTML tag. So I'm going to put in my body canvas. That's it. We made a canvas. Okay? You want to see it? It's fabulous. There it is. It's invisible. Okay? It's there. It's very small at the moment. It's actually about yay big. It's about that big. Okay? You can control how big it is, and I'll show you how. We can also control what it looks like in a minute. I'll show you that too. But see if you can remember that spot. See how close I was, right? I'm gonna go make it to where you can see it in my CSS. I'm just gonna style canvas, round, color, ink. Feel free to choose another color. Oh, I was off. That's how big it is. Make sure I'm full size. Yep, full size. That's how big it is. Now, you can use your CSS to just, width equals or whatever, but I want it to be a very specific calculated width. I could just say 1,000, but I want it to be exactly the width of my viewer, my browser. I want it to be the exact height of my browser. All right? So, one thing you're going to need to do to make sure that this doesn't mess you up, in your override code right here, look at my star on line 2. Make sure you have these two properties right here. Box sizing border box and overflow hidden. Otherwise, you're going to end up with scroll bars on your canvas, and we don't want that. Okay? All right? So let's just make the canvas, and then I'll explain to you what it is and what it can do. So I'm going to go into my JavaScript, and I'm going to create a variable. My canvas is like it's my world that I'm going to paint everything, right? So I'm going to call it world, right? That's my canvas. I'm going to say let world, all right? And it's going to equal what? It's going to equal that canvas object. So how do we get objects out of our DOM? Get them by ID or by tag, or we can just use the query selector. So we're going to go document.query selector canvas. Okay, so now I've grabbed the object, the canvas object, that little teeny pink square. I've grabbed that. Now I want to set some of its properties. Okay, I want to set its width and I want to set its height. There's lots of properties that canvas has, but we're just going to focus on these right now. Okay. All right. So I grabbed this canvas object. It has a property called width, and I want to set it equal to what's called the inner width of the window. Okay. What the inner width is all the way up to the edge here, right? It's right up to the edge. So I'm setting it to that. Let me just run this, and who knows what's going to happen? Nope. We're going to get an error. You might know what it is. What is it? No, I thought you should get it. Yeah. What is it? It's a mistake I always make in my JavaScript code. This time it's intentional though. Yes. So what's going to happen? The JavaScript's going to run on line 8, and it's going to try to find some object called canvas. Canvas has not been born yet for 3 more lines, right? So we're going to move our script tag below that so that we don't have a problem, okay? So it's going to go down here. But now, if I refresh it, Now, notice a little problem though. My console's open. Watch what happens when I close my console. It doesn't resize. If I refreshed it, it would be the right size. We're going to deal with that problem in a minute, all right? For now, let's just make it the right size. All right, so world.height is equal to inner height. Yeah. Now we got the whole canvas is covered. If I did not have those two CSS properties, box sizing and overflow hidden, then we'd have a scroll bar right now, right? Which is yucky. Okay, next up. Now that we got the window the way we want it, now that whole pink area is now our canvas that we can paint on, all right? So I'm going to make an object that has all of these properties that control. You can draw things, you can make circles, you can make squares, you can make arcs and triangles and lines and whatever you want, right? All kinds of stuff. So that's kind of like my paintbrush or my pencil, if you will. So I'm going to just make the variable called pencil. Doesn't matter what you call it though. Let pencil equal the world, my canvas, get context. This is a function. Okay, and I'll explain to you the function in a minute. 2D as in two-dimensional. You can also do three-dimensional, right? We can do 3D stuff. What this line of code does, this right here, world.getContext, returns an object. And I'll show you some stuff in that object in a minute. We'll look at it on W3 Schools. But it returns an object. This object has draw properties and things where you can draw circles and all these things and all these methods and properties you can manipulate. But it's an object with a whole bunch of stuff that allows us to draw stuff. Okay, so let's quickly look at some of the things that are available to us. We're only going to use a couple today. W3 schools, and it's the get context right there. It's already highlighted. Here we go. All right, so first of all, look at the browser support. Pretty darn good. The canvas element, okay? This right here tells you that the get context method returns an object that provides methods for drawing the canvas, which is what I just told you a second ago, okay? So here's some of the properties. We're going to look at some of these today. Fill style, stroke style. We're not going to look at the shadow stuff right now, but there's things like we have rect and fill rect and fill and stroke. We're going to look at fill and we'll look at stroke maybe next time. Line 2, we're going to look at some of that next time. We're going to look at arc today. There's lots of different things. Scale, rotate, translate, all kinds of stuff in here that are all methods that are now available to my pencil, right? So I can pencil dot whatever those methods are, okay? And I'll have access to all this stuff. So right now, I just want to draw a circle. Well, there's actually not a circle function that's returned in this object, this get context object, but there is an arc, okay? So you can draw an arc. I'm going to give you 2 little snippets of code here that for right now, just push the I believe button that you need them. And later we'll get into an explanation why. It's hard to see their purpose when you're dealing with spheres and circles. When you start drawing lines, it's very clear what their purpose is, but you need them in both cases. Okay, so my pencil dot begin path, and I need a pencil dot close path. Our code's gonna go in between those two, all right? Again, just for now, push the I believe button. I will explain those next week, right? Thank you. I'm glad somebody appreciated that. Okay, so inside of here, I want to create an arc, right? And what's an arc? Just a curve, right? Right? So pencil dot arc, and there's a whole bunch of parameters. There's an X and a Y for the center point of the arc, okay? There's a radius, so X, Y, and R. I'm just gonna put the variables for now. We're gonna put real numbers in a second. Then there is the starting point and the ending point. Now this is done in radians. If you're not familiar with how radians work in a circle, look it up, okay? We're not gonna get into that. This is not a geometry class, okay? But we want to go, to get a full circle, we want to go 0 to what? Pi times 2, right? Math.pi times 2. That will take us from point 0, and then look up here, point 0, all the way around 360 degrees back to where we started. Pi times 2 radians will give us 360 degrees, okay? There's one more parameter. The parameter is, do I want to draw it clockwise or draw it counterclockwise? That's an optional parameter, so we can just leave it off. So let's put in some actual values here. X, I'm gonna just put it at about 100 pixels over and 100 pixels down, and it's gonna have a radius of like 50, okay? So this right here should give us, well, there's one thing missing. Let's watch what happens. When I refresh, nothing, right? There's one thing we're missing. That is pencil dot fill. something I'm not seeing, folks. Oh, I know why. Because I didn't draw my arc properly. I deleted one of my variables. No wonder. I forgot the 0. Starting at 0, going to math pi. I was like, I knew that was right. Okay. There we go. Jeez, sorry about that. Okay, so let's go back to what I was trying to do. This is just a stroke. That should have worked. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. That was just my brain cramping up. I overlooked the fact that I didn't put the 0 point. So we have the X, the Y, the radius, and then starting point, ending point, right? So if I just go to math.pi, not times 2, I get a halfway there, right? So it's an arc, okay? And if I wanted to go from math.pi to 0, that would give me an arc the other way, okay? But we want a full circle. So we're gonna go math.pi 2. That's just a constant in the library. All right, sorry about the little mix up there. I was missing a variable. Okay, so basic big picture, we got a circle now, right? Great. We can fill it in and we can give it a stroke. So I can also say pencil.fill. Now it fills it in. Notice it's filling it in with just the default color black. We can control that, all right? So let's make before the arc, we're gonna say pencil.fill style. This is one of these properties that's a property of this get context object, okay? All this stuff is properties and methods of that. Equals 5, equals red, okay? So now it's gonna have a red fill, but it still has a black stroke. You see that? Okay, and we'll change the stroke color, and that is stroke style, and that's gonna be equal to blue. So now you can see a blue. Can you see the stroke there? It's blue now, all right? So again, what's happening here, and keep in mind, this stuff has to be contained between the begin and the close path here, which will make more sense when we look at drawing lines later. But what I've done, I've created a canvas, set the width and the height. That's all I've done. Then I created what I'm calling a pencil, which is just an object that has a whole bunch of properties and methods. What are those properties and methods? They're all this crap right here. All this stuff is available to me, right? We've looked at some of these already, like here's where we stroke and fill right there. Those are methods I can use, functions I can use. And then we also have line, let's see, stroke style, right? Fill style, okay? I can also do line width, right? Which is what we're gonna do now. Pencil.line width, which I'm gonna set it to 5. So it makes the stroke a little bit bigger on there. Oops, right? So we made a ball. Yay, right? Now, the real thing, why we really care about all this stuff, yeah, sure, I drew a little ball on my screen there, okay? And, let's fix that. Let's fix that resizing business next, and then we'll talk about the details here. But ultimately, we're gonna be able to make an array of these balls, right? And we can put them all over the screen. We're gonna be able to animate them. We're gonna put some collision detection on them, a whole bunch of stuff. We're gonna do a lot of that today, right now. But first, I wanna deal with this screen problem. So if I open up my console here and I refresh the page, and I showed you this a minute ago, if I resize my console, my canvas isn't resizing with it. So how could I fix that problem? This is something you know about. You may not know the exact way, but conceptually, do you have an idea? I want to change things when I resize my browser. An event handler, right? On the window, right? So let's just quickly add an event handler. This code's gonna get messy real quick. We'll start cleaning it up a little ways along. But let's go a window.add event listener. And I want to on resize. This is one of the things you can listen for in a JavaScript event handler. You can listen for resize, okay? What do I want to do when I resize? I want to call some function that's called resize, right? That's maybe not a good choice of words. Fix size or something like that, okay? I want to call a function called fix size, okay? I'm going to make that function down here out of the way. I'll do it here and then I'll copy and paste it down below. So function fix size. Now, what do you suppose I want to do in that fix size function? Yeah, I just want to run this code right here. Yeah? So maybe we should have like some sort of a setup function or something. We'll see as we move along. But for now, let's just duplicate our code for simplicity. We'll clean it up a little bit later. Okay? But that's all I want to do. I just want to run that. So now that should solve the problem. Refresh, and now when I remove this, it resets it, right? Okay, look at that. Now, what happened to my ball? Yeah, it got drawn over, okay? Which is a very key important of how this canvas works. Every time you refresh it, you're redrawing the canvas, which is how we're going to create the illusion of animation, right? It's like the old days with the cartoons and the cellophane, where they draw one, then they put the plastic on, they draw another one right on top of it with a slight movement.
Here, a Mickey Mouse short is being put on film. Mickey has been inked and painted on transparent sheets of celluloid. This happens to be a panorama effect where the character will walk in one place and the background keeps moving behind him to create the illusion. Each time a new cell of Mickey is photographed, the background must be moved a fraction of an inch. Photographing each one of these celluloids of Mickey and background makes a single frame of motion picture film. And here's how the action looks on the screen.
We're basically going to create that effect. Little flip books, you've seen those? That's the effect we're going to do, right? So my idea of having a setup function was probably a good one. So let's do this. We're going to have a setup function here. We're going to call the setup function, and we're going to get rid of that. And now what we're going to do is, as soon as this page loads, we're just going to call that setup function, right? This will work so far, right? This will give us the original thing with the ball, but as soon as I resize it, the ball goes away. So we need to fix that problem. Well, how can we fix that? What's that? Draw the ball inside the setup function, right? Okay. Now, I don't want to have that big block of code in my setup. That's kind of messy. So, or a class. Let's make a class, a ball class. So we can make a whole bunch of them eventually, right? So let's make a ball class. We're going to use the old school JavaScript function ball equals, function ball, right? And we're going to pass into it an X, a Y, and a radius, right? And then we're going to say, let's create a function called this dot, I don't know, show the ball or something is equal to a function. And that's going to draw this code right here. It's going to do that. All right, so let's just pause at that moment. Make sure we understand that code right there. All I've done is my function's not complete. My class, this is actually a class. It's not complete yet. But what I've done is I've just created a method called show, so I can eventually say, ball.show or whatever, right? So I need to finish up my function though by saying this dot x equals x, this dot y equals y, and this dot r equals r. Yeah? Make sense? What's the last thing I need to change? Yeah. Yep, I need these to be my variables there, right? This dot x, this dot y, and this dot r. Okay, so now I can create an object that's a ball, and then I can just draw that object simply inside of my setup function. Okay, all right, next up, let's go ahead and change this to where we're actually creating a ball. So I'm going to start off by saying let ball, and we'll just create that, and then in here we're going to say ball equals new ball, and we'll pass in those coordinates that we just had before. Okay, that's pretty standard object-oriented coding right there, right? All right, and then inside of my setup function, I'm just going to draw the ball for now. We're going to change that in a minute, but for now. So ball.show, okay? Can you dig it?
Can you dig it?
This syntax is weird, right? So we feel okay with the syntax? We good? All right, so let's save it and refresh it. And we probably got an error in my console. Let's take a look. Yep, what do we got? Let's see. I must have an extra bracket somewhere here. Line 21. That doesn't look extra. What's this one go to? That's the function. You guys see it? Oh, I know. Missing my parentheses there. I did this backwards. Sorry. This is right here. Bad habit. Yeah, that's the way you're supposed to do that. See that? Look at line 20. That's fixed the problem. Right? The brackets go next to the word function. Yeah, that was just Java flashback there. Sorry. Okay. Now we should be good. All right. Except we have pencil is not defined at ball.show. No, what's happening here, we need it just before, right here. Actually, sorry, before here. Yeah, right there. So the best way to do that, I'm going to take all these variables here and move them into my setup. All right. But let me run and show you that should work now. Okay. Now it's working. The problem was this setup function was trying to access this down here, referring to pencil. Theoretically, I should probably pass that pencil in as an argument, right? You see why? Okay, that's probably a cleaner way to do that. Maybe we'll do that in just a second. But the problem that was happening here was pencil didn't exist yet because it was down here on line 14, all right? So let's clean up this code just a little bit. I want to do this in my setup function, right? I want to do this in my setup function, right? And I'm just going to say, let's world ball pencil. Let's get rid of this right there. It's a little bit cleaner, okay? I'll move the setup to above here. All right, so this code should still work just fine. Does everybody see what happened there? I've got world, ball, and pencil. They're set up as global variables. Then my setup function is assigning world to that canvas object in our HTML. Then we're setting the width of that object to and the height to the size of the window. And then we're creating this pencil or brush or whatever we want to call it is equal to this whole function here that returns this whole object returns all these properties we're going to manipulate, right? Then we create a ball, and we should pass in that pencil right there. Pass that object in. Follow me? Everybody see that? Okay, we're going to pass that pencil in and accept it as an argument right here. Just call it P, and it's going to be this dot P equals, equals P, right? And so now all these pencils here, we're going to change to this dot P. Can you dig it?
Can you dig it?
Let me make sure we understand what I just did. Rather than using a global variable that exists outside of this function, outside of this class, this is technically a class, right? In the Java world, would we ever do that? Have a global variable that just the class can just see? We'd never do that. Never. You'd want to pass it in. So all I'm doing is creating a pencil here, right? Which is just that object that holds all this crap in it. And then I'm passing that into my ball class. I'm passing in an X, a Y, a radius, and the actual pencil that's going to do the drawing. And then that's the variable right there. I set this dot P inside of here equal to this P right here. And now that P, which is just one of these objects that's like a pencil or whatever, I'm calling all of its properties. Okay? Make sense? Make sure I didn't break it. And I did not break it. Okay? Quick recap here. We created 3 variables. I'm calling this setup function, which is this code right here. And I've got an event listener here that whenever I resize the window, it's just going to recall the setup function. All right. What's my setup function do? It takes this world object, which assigns it that canvas in my HTML. So that's the whole canvas object. That canvas object has, and again, it's just a tag, right? But it has a width property and a height property. I'm setting it to the window's width and height. So now I've built my canvas. It's full screen. Right? And now I've created a pencil or brush, whatever you want to call it. Like we can rename it to brush if we wanted to. But I'm creating some object that's going to be this full object that has properties that I can change the fill, the stroke, the line style, if it's an arc, a rectangle, all this stuff. And then I'm going to create a ball, and I'm going to use this pencil to draw that ball. So I pass this pencil into my class we just made with an X, Y, and a radius parameter right here, X, Y, radius, and then the pencil. And then I have a function that is going to show it. What's it do to show it? It begins and closes the path. And I'll tab these over just because it kind of sets the stage of what's happening there. And then I use that pencil, this dot P is our pencil now, to make its fill style red, its stroke style blue, its line width 5. These are all properties of the this dot P, of that pencil. Then I draw an arc. What I do with this line that says arc, it just creates the arc. P dot stroke, this dot P dot stroke draws it, right? And then fill fills it. If those 2 lines weren't there, we'd have nothing on our screen, okay? So, that makes sense? That's the whole project right now. All right, well, I want to animate it, right? I want to animate it. So I'll make it bounce off the edges of the screen or something like that, right? So first of all, I don't like that it's got this ugly blue. We're just going to get rid of the stroke and make it just a red ball, right? So it's just black. I want line width, nothing. There we go. And it's still got black in there, doesn't it? Yeah. I just need to turn off the stroke. There we go. That's all. Okay, there we go. Got rid of it. Right? Looks good. All right, so right now I'm saying make it a red fill, create an arc, and then fill it with red. All right, so this is what we have right now, this red ball on the screen. I want it to drop. I want it to fall. All right? So I want to somehow increase the X value, right? But keep increasing the X value over and over and over and over again. All right? So let's first just make a function in our ball class that can do that. Like this dot update, you can pick whatever, this dot move, this dot whatever. I just call it update, equals a function. And that function is going to just simply say this dot x plus equals like 10. And the same with, maybe we'll do this dot y, so it'll fall kind of at a diagonal. This dot y plus equals 10. Now, if I run that update function, what'll happen? Well, if I run it one time, what's going to happen? So let's look at this right here. If I type it right here, ball.update, you see nothing, okay? Why do I see nothing? Because I updated, but I didn't redraw it, right? I didn't redraw it. I didn't call this draw function. So if I were to look at the values of ball.x, it's now 110. So it did increment, but it didn't redraw it. Well, I want to redraw it. I want to keep drawing it, right? That makes sense? So just to prove that point, if I were to update it first and then draw it, right? You see that it moved over a little bit because I updated the numbers, then I drew them. So we need some sort of way to update, draw, update, draw, update, draw, update, draw, right? We basically want an infinite loop that's going to update, draw, update, draw, update, draw. That's exactly what we want, is an infinite loop. We're going to actually make infinite recursion.